How did your whiskey finish? Now, I know we did a whole video about whiskey finishing. This is not that video. This is based on a question from Shark Retired 2358, who said, how does the finish happen? Where one whiskey will linger and in different ones, the taste will just fall off. Is it a type of distillation? Is it the mash bill? Is it the length of aging in the barrel? And the answer is all of the above. End of video. I'll see you later. No, so the answer is production. That's like, the more you learn, and this is true of wine somms, this is true of any spirits expert. The more you learn about the boring technical production stuff, the more you understand what you're experiencing in the glass. And the more you can pinpoint why something happened when you taste it. So there is absolutely a benefit to learning, if you're really into this, there's a benefit to learning the really nerdy production level of whiskey stuff because it alters what you taste and what you experience fundamentally. And here I'll put in a little plug for the Bonafide Whiskey Enthusiast program because that's our online whiskey education program and it teaches you all the basic fundamentals of those things. But anyway, it works, it's valuable, it alters everything. And the answer to Shark Retired's question is yes to all three of the things that he put in there. Now, when we say finishing, what we mean is people in nerdy whiskey situations tend to break down the palate experience. So first, let's back up. When you're analyzing whiskey, you have appearance, nose, palate, and then usually that's it, right? But finish often gets categorized as a separate part from the palate experience in general. And what it means is the lingering, what's left after you're done. After you're taking your sip, you swallowed, now what? Basically, it comes down to chemicals, like all whiskey does. But because of production affecting the chemical composition of whiskey, it changes the feeling of the finish. And so, for example, generically, I think there's a couple things that people can experience. One of them is a finish being short, which means you swallowed, you breathed, now it's gone, there's nothing left. Or you swallow, you breathe, it's lingering, there's still something happening. That's called a short finish or a long finish. A short finish can mean low proof. It can mean a young whiskey. It can mean a lack of complexity that hasn't had time to develop. It can mean column distillation versus pot still distillation, because a column distillation extracts things and a pot still distillation leaves some of those chemicals. And then there's two others, I would say, thin or thick. So if a finish lingers but it feels thin and brittle, or if a finish lingers and it's thick and heavy, that's a difference in the oily type compounds that are in a whiskey. And that can mean column distillation versus pot still. That can mean high barrel impact versus low barrel impact. All of those things change the finish. And so I'm going to give you a list of like, these are the things that you need to think about when you're looking for what we describe as finish. But first we're going to talk about Old Forester Rye 100 proof. This is, I looked up oh man, that nose. There's a banana bread component to this rye that is very unique to rye. So this is a really high barley content rye. So it's 65% rye, 20% malted barley, and the rest corn, 15%. So typically what you see is rye, then corn, then just enough barley to add the conversion for fermentations. This is really high barley, which according to them means they didn't have to add enzymes to the fermentations because the high proportion of malted barley impacted the enzymes. I should probably do a video about that at some point. This is a product of master distiller Chris Morris and Jackie Zykan, the master taster at Old Forester. And they were trying to replicate a really old recipe from 1940. And not recipe, but release, I guess. I did find something as a marketer that I thought was really funny, and I'm just gonna poke a little fun at Old Forester because I'm not typically a bourbon guy as my preference, but I really love Old Forester as a brand. Like if I'm in a bar and someone asks, what bourbon do you want? If they have Old Forester, that, as far as the big brands go, between makers and, yeah, anyway. I tend to lean Old Forester. I love Wild Turkey, but I really like Old Forester. And so I'm going to poke a little fun at him, which is I went to look up this one, and this was the sentence I read. In 1870, our founder, George Garvin Brown, revolutionized the industry by putting bourbon in a glass bottle for the first time, which is true, by the way. Old Forester was the first brand to bottle bourbon. 150 years later, we are proud to introduce rye. It's the most non sequitur marketing sentence I think I've ever read. Hey, this really cool, amazing, and innovative historical thing happened. Also, rye. Whoever wrote that, come on. That was the weakest transition I've ever read. And the story of this rye is really cool. You didn't need to start with, we had bottles way back before anybody else did. Okay. So on the nose, after that walnut banana bread, oh, I just spilled some on the barrel. I'm not used to this. This is a different glass. I'm not used to the shape of this one, and it's sloshing differently. Outside of that banana bread and walnut, there is a little bit of that sort of herbal, but it's not like I would experience with any other rye. Once again, what I keep finding with Kentucky bourbons making ryes, and this is even with a historical reference point, what you find is what Kentucky bourbon people prefer in a rye. There's a little bit of a straw and astringent wicker note, a dryness to the nose. Wow. Okay, I'm going to say something that is, this might be my favorite rye that I've had. and I get it, like, I really love these like really high drama Monongahela single varietal ryes and big Balcones rye barrel impact. I love that drama, but if I just want to feel good while I'm drinking a whiskey, this as a rye, probably because it has higher barley content, which does this sort of softening and rounding and adding an earth to the spice. I really like this. I really wasn't sure what I was going to think about it. I bought this bottle on the shelf because I thought I should review it because I hadn't seen it before. Son of a bitch. For my preferences, this is not for everybody. As a Scotch drinker first, who likes bourbon and endures rye most of the time, this is, of course it is, because it's a bourbon drinker's rye with high barley. It's hitting all my preferred markers. Of course it is. Man, well done. I've never met Jackie Zykamp, but I would like to. She seems like a real whiskey badass. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to add a little water, and then I'm going to move on. I'm going to give you the 4 things that you should be looking for in a finish. Oh, I put it over here. Look, guys, legit water ad. This is a new feature on our channel. Oh, that was a lot. There we go. Drops. Okay. If you're trying to understand just finish, I'm not talking about any of the other palate impacts, just finish. Yeah? Not nosing, not palate, just finish, which is part of palate. Length. So first thing you need to do, taste a whiskey, let it sit, move it around a little, gently, swallow. Length. What's the length? Is it, and think in terms of distance, is it short, medium, long? That's it. Forget about what you're tasting. Just, is it a short finish, a medium finish, or a long finish? That's it. Flavor. Figure out what what tasting notes in your mouth, what flavors are left. So you'll have one taste when you first sip it and you put it in your mouth, and then after you've swallowed and exhaled and breathed, there's what's left of those flavors you experienced. Is it one of the things that's still left behind? Is it a new thing that wasn't there when the whiskey was on your palate? 3, retro-olfaction, which is just a fancy word for saying exhale air over your palate and it changes what you taste. That's it. You don't even need a lot of whiskey for that to happen. A tiny wetting of your palate, swallow, exhale, so like this. Now, what do you taste? That's finish. And not just in the back of your tongue, but all over your palate. What do you taste? For this one, well, let me finish. The fourth one is mouthfeel. How does it feel in your palate? And that's when you find people leaning towards words like smooth and things like that. How does it feel? It's not a tasting note, it's a feeling note. So, with Old Forester Rye, I would say medium finish. What's left over is wax, walnut, cinnamon, slight honey, dryness, really tannic dry. And after a full exhale, I lose all of that and just get the dryness and the like dry cinnamon, not sugar cinnamon. And the mouthfeel is slightly astringent with a little bit of what feels like a sugar coating. I hope that helps. I hope that helps you understand just the finish. I think I'll probably talk about each level of analyzing whiskey at some point, but it was nice to start with the finish because it was asked in the comments. If you have a question that you think might turn into a video, please ask them. I look at every single comment. I always try to figure out whether one of your comments can just be answered in the comments or whether I can turn it into a video. And things like this turn into a video. I have the hiccups for some reason. Sorry about that. Okay, anyway, I'm really glad you're here. Cheers to you. Speaking of finish, you're not finished with this video until you've hit the like and subscribe button and then maybe turned on alerts. So, yeah.